Well, I think it worked. Please make a comment if you can hear me and see me okay. Okay, I'll take that as yes, you can. Awesome. I don't know what the problem was. I started about 2 minutes before to go live and it just death spiral. Well, good morning. First time. Got my coffee. And I'm ready for questions. This was a fundraising and somebody spoiled it. He already kicked in the goal. I need a video card, and they're basically SD cards, but they have to be the highest rating. And so the one for my camera, it's like $50. So that was the goal today. It's already covered. But the way this works is in the live chat, not in the comments. I can't see in the comments. But in the live chat to the right, you put in whatever it is you want to say. Keep it clean, keep it respectful. I don't want to have to get moderators. And I'll take my glasses off so I can read it, and then I'll answer the question. And if you are inclined to sow support because you thought it was a great answer or something like that, there's a little $ where you enter in your comment and, $5 or whatever. If not, that's fine too. As long as I can make these cover something that I need, I will do them once or twice a month. Yeah, a little tiny violin. Okay, so hit me with a question. I'm waiting. Good morning, Charles. And thank you kindly for all that you do. I'd actually planned to have a list of things to fill in little gaps like this, but am I wearing any pants? Actually, no. Got out of the shower about a half hour ago, made my coffee, my coffee time mug, and sat down. Where do they sell flowers? Well, in Armenia, we'll talk about Armenia. They sell flowers pretty much everywhere. There's, you go into El Centro, there'll be markets. Now, the way Armenia is laid out, and it's not unique in this, but you'll have 3, 4, 5 blocks that'll have specialties like house paint and construction material and spackling. That'll just be in this area. And you have shoes. You want to buy shoes. You don't just go to a shoe store. You go to the area in El Centro, and there might be a number of blocks of competitive places selling shoes. Well, they have the same thing for flowers. Now, it's not only one, but there's a couple of these areas, throughout the city. So that's probably the best, lowest price. Now, of course, you can just go in a supermarket and buy some flowers, but it won't be a lot different than if you went to Whole Foods and bought it. You're not going to get your great deal. What a question to ask, and stupid me, I answered it. Am I wearing pants? So I did read your comment. If you go to the coffee park, the amusement park with Juan Valdez, awesome place. I'm going to try to go sometime soon. I haven't been there in 17 years. They have a show there about orchids, and they talk about the orchid production in Colombia, which has the most and the most unique orchids in the world. And all of that is available. Now, I love flowers, but honestly, I'm not a person to just go out and get flowers for the sake of it. So that's about what I know about the flowers here. Okay, let me read this. What's the biggest single adjustment? Well, I'll answer it the best I can. I'm at a little disadvantage on this question because I've lived in other countries. And so it's been so long that what would I say is the biggest adjustment? Well, in Colombia in particular, you have the economy to adjust to. It's a little deceiving. And I'll mention Ecuador too, even though that's in dollars, the economy does not directly translate because it's artificially tampered with by the government. So there'll be taxes. For example, if you've probably looked for flights if you want to go check out Cuenca, and you'll see that the flights are so much more expensive going in and out of Ecuador than most other countries. And it's because there's a lot of taxes involved. And so adjusting to that in Cuenca or in Ecuador is really problematic because people, when they do go there, they'll see the $3 lunches and some low rents and things like that. And they think, oh my God, it's so cheap here. But then after you live there for a while, doing all the things that you would normally do, you find out it was not as cheap as you thought it was going to be. Now in Colombia, everything is kind of a direct correlation to what you're used to in Canada or the United States. And so it's easier to get with the swing of things because, I mean, it's just flat cheaper. But then you're trying to adjust to the money. And so I think that's an initial thing. Of course, language is a big thing. And then understanding the culture about things. And, we've talked quite a bit about tipping recently, but that's really a cultural thing where here it's kind of an insult. In the United States, an insult if you don't. And so you have those adjustments, cultural adjustments, that takes a little while. And when people come here, they tend to think that the way that they do things is really superior. And it may not be an overt thing, but it comes across. And obviously, it's kind of an insulting thing. But, the nice thing about in Colombia and somewhat in Ecuador is that people are considerably more forgiving than where we're from. And so they just kind of roll with it. But if you think about it, it's sometimes the way we do things in the United States is superior. Sometimes it's not. And we just don't understand the differences until you're here for a while. So those are some things. All right, what do we got? Do they have town squares and places to sit and relax and people watch? Oh my God. This is a people watching country. There are outdoor cafes all over the place, parks all over the place. And in particular, you'll see a lot of older guys sitting around having coffee in the afternoon, talking about politics, talking about women, talking about whatever it is they're going to talk about, maybe orchids. And you'll see a lot of times, depending on where you go, you'll see the same guys there, same time. They'll spend an hour or two in the afternoon. But yes, absolutely. This is a sit and take it in place with tons of places to do that. Oh, and pretty much almost every restaurant and cafe, it seems, has this big outdoor patio because the climate is so good, so consistent, so comfortable, unlike Ibagué that I just got back from, that they can do that. In Ibagué, which has a lot of nice things going for it, too hot for me. If you like hot, great place to go. All right, what else we got here? I prefer Armenia's idea on tipping. Well, it's just how it is, but actually it does simplify things. Best way to learn about language? Great question. If you followed my videos going back 3.5 years, you know the struggle that I went through. And it's sad because, as some of you know, I married a Colombian girl 18 years ago. Had a great marriage, wonderful person. But I was down here on a contract, and I was down here, I don't know, less than a year. And I had to go back, contract's over, I have to go back, and we got married, and so she went back with me. She came a month later. And of course, she's a teacher, and when we got there, she really needed to learn English to get up to speed so she could get back to work. She loved her profession. So I couldn't really learn any Spanish because the focus was on her English. So let's cut to the future, where 3.5 years ago I moved to Cuenca, Ecuador. You would think, okay, there I'm going to learn Spanish, especially, you know, if you're there for 3 years, why didn't I learn Spanish? It's almost 4 years now. And the reason being is I made a lot of friends, but all the friends that I made spoke some English. And here's the thing about Cuenca. If you speak English, if you're bilingual, then your value in the job market almost doubles. And so, of course, they want to speak English they want to practice. And I looked at that and go, I want to learn Spanish, but you know, it's like I was taking away something from them. And so I spoke English. And that was the reason. That was the reason why. But it did come down to where I really need to knuckle down. Now, I have programs. I've got Rosetta Stone. I've probably got 6 different software programs. Plus, you have the one online. The name escapes me, but it's free. It's not bad. But I didn't really learn anything from those. I did learn a lot of words. I have a huge vocabulary. It's putting it together that's the difficulty. You know, learning the tense of the words and, you know, all the different formats. We tend to reverse just like they tend to reverse English, so my words get reversed. And so that's where I'm at right now. But this is a single thing that I did that accelerated past all this other stuff. I started going to a language exchange class. That's how I met Adriana. I met her sister first, but Adriana and I we went to these exchange classes. That made a huge difference. In a short period of time, I took those words that I knew and started putting together in, granted, broken, pathetic sentences, but I became understandable. So I would say, you know, we all know immersion is the best way. And these language exchange classes are pretty much all over the place and free. And here, for example, you don't have very many gringos at all, but you have universities. And everybody here in grade school, high school, university, they have English classes. They don't learn it. They kind of blow it off. If you ever took French in high school, doesn't mean you can speak French. But you can volunteer and go to those places, and you'll speak English, but you can make friends and they'll reciprocate and help you with Spanish. I think personally, those are the best ways. Now, everybody learns different ways. Definitely do a software thing. You can do the free one, prior to you coming. You can Skype. There is Italki, I think, is the app you can put on your phone, and you'll have people from around the world, and you put in, here's my level, and this is the language I want to learn, and you can hook up with partners there that will help you with language. So those are different ways. God, I'm so long-winded. Message retracted. Did you retract it, or did this automatically do it? I don't know. Okay, what else do we have for questions? I hope I'm answering these. I'm trying to be fulsome in my answers. The two-way translators work. Yes. I definitely need to use my Google Translate. Now, the Google Translate I use is the one that you actually download onto your phone. It's continually improving, and it's gotten so much better over the past few years. Now, when I talk to my friends that do not speak English, I can talk about surface level things. You know, what are we doing and what's going on and what did I do yesterday? I can talk about those things. But if I want to bring up a topic with any depth to it, I have to use Google Translate, at least to boost me along. And in some case, we'll actually have a translation conversation with it. And the one thing, you have to learn how to phrase things in English into the translator for it to come out to make sense. It took me a while to learn that, and there's no hard and fast rule. Just try to be as precise and as proper English as possible when you enter in, so that what comes out in Spanish makes sense. If you just kind of jot things down, it can come out kind of, they're not going to get it, or they'll misunderstand. So you want to be careful about how you do it. But yeah, they work. I use it very often. The most I use it is WhatsApp. We all communicate by phone on the WhatsApp app. That's the biggie. And even with my English speaking Spanish Colombian friends or Ecuador friends, I will communicate on WhatsApp and I'll use the translator. I'll translate into Spanish for them. And then I'll copy and paste, you know, whatever they send back. Because where I can get by speaking, I can't write. You know, it's just beyond me. And so I'll use the translator. So with phone communication, with WhatsApp, I definitely use the Google Translate. And it works fine. Power outages. I had one. That's a great question because there's a misconception about that. I had one about 2 months ago, and it was for maybe 3 hours. But it wasn't really a power outage. There's construction going on nearby, and they had either popped some local breaker or they had shut the power down shortly. I think they popped the breaker, and it killed the power here. So I've been living in this building now for, I believe it's 8 months. And outside of that, I haven't had any power problems. I had an internet problem one time, and that was kind of a fluke. And it ended up being 5 days. It was a nightmare, but it was really an unusual circumstance, and I doubt it will ever happen again. Yeah, that's a good one. Also, I love butterfly Spanish. Little tiny Mexican girl, she's been doing Spanish language for, God, 5 years, I think, maybe longer. And flights. Yeah, the only direct flight right now to Armenia is Fort Lauderdale. It's $200, $250, I think, round trip. It's dirt cheap. If you're coming from somewhere else, like for example, if you're going from California to fly to Fort Lauderdale, just to fly to Armenia, it can actually be more expensive because of the other flight or flights. So you really have to check out what's going to work best for you. Now, if you're on the East Coast, go to Fort Lauderdale, jump, I think it's Spirit, and they have an international flight a few times a week directly to Armenia. If you fly to Pereira, I don't know if there's direct flights. I think they go to Bogota and then to Pereira. Bogota, I used to have to, the only The only international was to Bogota, and I hated it every time. I'm not a fan of Bogota, although there's some amazing places there. But it depends on your circumstance. You mentioned you're from Canada. I really don't know. I mean, I've never flown from Canada to here, so you want to check that out and check your prices, what all those legs would be. I agree, Bogota could be problematic. However, if you fly into Bogota, get yourself a hotel room, go to the airport the next day, you can actually take a flight from Bogota to Armenia, and it runs anywhere from $30 to $60 typically. So it's not real expensive. You can take the bus. It's about 8.5, 9 hours. Can be a good trip. Depends. I don't mind the buses, and I used to hate buses. I've gotten very used to them. I actually kind of like them. But coming from Canada to the United States, that ride would probably drive you crazy. So I would recommend easing into it. You might want to take the flight. All right. Avianca. Avianca, and as you know, I've been all over the world. I think Avianca may be the best airline in the world. I love Avianca, although I haven't flown it in a few years, 4 years, I think it's been. But the service is amazing. Their food is like home cooked food. They're very conscientious, very friendly, really good at what they do. I'm a big fan of Avianca. Their price, comparable to American or Delta. They're not budget, but they're exceptionally good. Yeah, that's a good point about Pereira, the airport. It is in the process of expanding and getting more flights in there, and I wasn't even aware, but they have a direct flight to Miami now, as Lolita has pointed out. Um, and if you notice in the comments, Lolita, she was her and her husband. We did that series of 4 or 5 interviews about the year that they spent traveling the north part of South America and Central America, trying to find the place that they like, and they've settled down between me and Pereira. They've got a beautiful place. I really want to get out there and do a follow-up interview, but mostly because I want to see your place. The pictures are amazing. It looks like it looks like a dream location, and I'm very excited to see it. I have a question for you. Are you near El Jardín? I mean, are you very far away from that? Okay, my coffee. Yeah, there are flights from Houston to anywhere in Colombia. I really don't know questions like that because never flown from, never looked, never needed to look. I would assume there probably is. I mean, Colombia is a major destination, and I would guess that from Houston you could probably fly direct to Medellin and Bogota, but I really don't know. Oh, and let's not forget Cali. And when you're looking for flights, if you see an option where you can fly to Cali versus Bogota, and you plan on coming to Pereira or Armenia or Manizales, personally, I would fly into Cali. Now, yeah, I hate that city. It's not a place I like. However, you can jump on a transport, and I went from Cali to Manizales in 4.5 hours on this little buseta, this little minivan. Very comfortable, and the road from Cali to this area is pretty much a straight shot. It's all new highway. You're just cruising along. It's comfortable, relaxing, nice view. It's easier because of the road to go from Cali to Armenia than from Bogota to Armenia. Oh, there's your answer. Yes, I took a direct flight. IAH, I assume that's Houston. International Airport, Houston, maybe? Okay, what else we got? Oh, so that you know, when this ends, this live chat will no longer be accessible. I think you can still view it. I think you can click on it to see what was there, but you won't be able to go to it and put anything in. It shuts down the live section. Then you're just back to the comments below the screen. I consider getting a vehicle yet. I want to. In Ecuador, I did not want to. The laws are problematic. There's a whole bunch of reasons. It's unnecessary. Here, it's unnecessary. It's equally as easy to get around with the buses and taxis. I'd say they're on par. However, I really like doing these video things, and I want to have a car to run around the country and for the purpose of the videos. I have no desire to take a car out within the city. I don't know that I would even take a car from here to Pereira. I might, but why bother? Big shopping maybe, and you want to have a way to carry it without trying to figure out the bus. But yes, I do want to get a car. I just can't afford one right now, even though they're dirt cheap. For $1,000, I can get a roadworthy car. Lolita just went through this. Hello, Ryan. Lolita just went through this to get your driver's license. I believe it was about somewhere around $1,000, 900. No, Lolita, tell me, was it 900,000 pesos for the lesson? 2 weeks of lessons and pretty much a guaranteed pass on the license. Help me out, Lolita. You still here? I know she just went through this. I don't want to give the wrong pricing, but I think it was 900,000 pesos. So yeah, I mean, when I can afford it, I'm going to do it. It is one of my goals. I will do it. And I know I whine about, my finances, the last 6-7 months, primarily because it was such a shock to my system. What happened doesn't really matter, but my income dropped below $1,000 a month, and it was unexpected. The good news is I believe I found the correction to it, and I believe in a month or two I'll be back to normal, which is a huge sigh of relief. It's put me in a very happy mood, and of course I'll quit whining about it. Now I will still expect the channel to pay for itself. One thing you learn when you're facing the brokenness that I was facing is that you really have to respect the money you have, and if you have extra money, put it aside, because you never know what's going to happen. And it brings me to a point that I brought up to somebody else just recently. If you're coming from wherever you are to live here, and you have your life planned out, and I'm going to make X number of dollars, and that's your plan, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know the future. And so treat it accordingly. I thought I was set. I had a plan A, plan B, and plan C. I never planned for plan D, and that's where I got caught. So everything that could go wrong did go wrong, and it was like a mini disaster. But think about everything that you possibly can think about before you come. Have yourself a little safety net built for you, because when you get here, you're alone. You don't have welfare or food stamps or churches that'll, take you in and help you along. It doesn't exist. You have to take care of yourself. All right, what do we got? Yeah, I will mention that as I do these live Q&As, they are fundraisers, and where you type in a comment, there's a little $sign. You can, if you find value, feel free to contribute something. So, thanks for mentioning it. How do drivers drive? Depends on where you are. In Armenia, people are very polite. Taxis will, even though they have a right of way, they'll stop and let people through, especially if it's a old lady or a guy who's infirmed or something. They smile, they let you go. They're not rushing, they're not pushing. That isn't throughout Colombia. It's kind of like, how do the drivers in the United States drive? Well, in upstate New York, they drive great. New York City, maybe not so much. So it depends. Armenia, it's a very polite driving atmosphere. Now, on some of the roads, there's a lot of traffic. And I drove, I have two friends work at the airport, and they were helping me move something to my apartment. And she just tossed me the keys to her car. I hadn't driven in 4 years, no more. Because prior to me being sick, so about 7 years, I hadn't driven a car. But you never forget. I mean, drove for all my life. So I get in the car and I'm driving, and she was amazed at what a good driver I was. Because people here don't grow up driving and they take lessons, but they're very conscientious. And I can honestly say I've yet to see an accident, which kind of blows my mind, because you have to be careful. You have to be on your toes. But I don't know. I didn't have any problem with it. It was I had to drive through town at peak traffic hour, and there was quite a bit of traffic, but nobody was cutting me off. Nobody was trying to, be overly aggressive that would cause an accident. But again, that's Armenia. Now, in Medellin, all bets are off. I just saw they're talking about getting these new electric scooters, and what a great idea, because you can ride them on the sidewalks. It's like, oh my God. And they said, well, what's the problem? You have motorcycles come up off the road onto the sidewalks, which is true. I mean, it's, all bets are off in Medellin. However, I don't see contributing more to that by having these scooters. I mean, people walk on sidewalks. So, in Medellin, it's a nightmare. In Bogota, it's pretty orderly for the most part. Cali, middle of the road. Armenia, not bad at all, kind of sweet. Bermuda is similar to Armenia, except less friendly and a lot more traffic. Okay, we got any other questions? What about a motorbike? Didn't see that. Different experience, good roads. A lot of the roads are really good. Coming from Ibagué, going and coming, the roads are actually pretty much new. There used to be a lot of bridge collapses on that road, and all you see is new bridges and tunnels there. It's kind of beautiful. But in Ibagué, the city of Ibagué, the roads were terrible. Some of my video clips I can't even use because we just kept hitting these potholes. It's horrendous. Ibagué is a city that was really, really poor. And recently, you can see the economy has hit there, and they're improving and growing and building, and things are going on. It's nice to see. But the infrastructure is rough. And so you find that in different places. Again, it depends. In Armenia, I think you have places with potholes and you've got nice roads. It's a good mixture, but it's a typical mixture. I mean, you can go to, any average place in the United States and you're going to get the same kind of mixture. So nothing out of the ordinary. Motorcycles, You got to be really careful. They're dangerous because of the amount of traffic. And the other thing to consider on the motorcycle, although you can pick one up for $300, but you want to consider that it rains fairly often, and it's like every afternoon or in the evening, or you never know. You never know. So when you go out, there's a lot of days that I'll take an umbrella because it just kind of feels like I might get caught in the rain. So if you're on a motorcycle, it's the same boat. Now here you have a lot of people on motorcycles and they carry rain suits, and you'll see them walking around in these rain suits. But yeah, it's certainly doable. Just, be careful. Are there nice and inexpensive hotels you can live in? Yes, absolutely. And you can get Airbnb long-term. There's a gringo here right now that I spent some time with. He actually used me consulting one day, but I've spent some time with him, and he's almost blind, and so I was helping him, locate some things. And so recently, just a few days ago, I'm looking through all these Airbnb in the north section. We're looking where he could be within walking distance without getting into a lot of problems. And I found this one place that was $230 the monthly fee for a furnished, ready to go, all inclusive apartment that's about 2 blocks from where I'm living right now. So you can also find Airbnb in other nice neighborhoods, but maybe not in the north or something like that, or maybe $150. But you have to search, and you also don't want to wait till the last minute, Justin. You don't want to give yourself a little time, to make sure that you can get that booked. But yeah, you can do that. And there's hotels. I stayed in a hotel that my weekly fee was $9 a day. I don't know what the monthly fee would have been, but it might have been down to 6 or 7. Very nice place. So yeah, it's certainly doable. You can also get hotel rooms for $100 a night. So, all right, this is moving. So let's see. What if I Spanish? Why not Spanish? Local expat groups in Armenia. No, because there's so few. But I'll tell you what you do have, and you asked me this. I was going to respond today, so I'm glad you're on here. Save me the typing. The flower girl. If you're not part of it, join the Facebook group Expats of Armenia. There are expats, but for the most part, they're not. Most seem to not be actually in Armenia itself. They're nearby. They're in the vicinity. They're in the region. You've got there's probably more expats living around Salento than there are in Armenia itself. I've been told, and I don't know how accurate this is, that there's a couple hundred expats living in this area. I almost never see expats walking around here in Armenia. I do occasionally. The other day with Justin, we spotted 2 gringos. How did I know? He's wearing a floppy safari hat, and he's wearing safari shorts, and they got the backpack on. I mean, they look like your typical gringo tourist. So he stood out like a sore thumb. Now, if he was dressed differently, I wouldn't even notice them. I've covered that in videos, but when you dress like a tourist, then you're going to stand out as a tourist. So, but it was also obvious they don't live here; they're just passing through, and it's a great place. You don't have to come here to live, but sometime in your life, you might want to make this a tourist destination. Come spend a couple of weeks. There is a lot of things here. And now that my finances are kind of getting back into place, and things like this, that funding is going to go to hitting. I'm going to get out of Armenia and start showing some of these things that are just stunning. They're just amazing. Even the coffee park, and there's a place called Panica. It's kind of like I don't know what it's like. It's going back in time in Colombia of ranching and the farmers, and you go horseback riding. You can watch them make panela. They make it by hand, so that's that raw sugar that's in everything here. They have pig races, which is hilarious. Everybody, you see them drinking beer and gambling on these pigs running around. They got the numbers on their back. It's absolutely hilarious watching it. So it's this very rustic thing, and I believe there's a train connecting it to the coffee park. They're very close. You've got tamales, stunningly gorgeous natural springs at the foot of these multiple waterfalls, cascadas. It's stunning. Some of the countryside here is as beautiful as anywhere on this planet. My favorite place in the world, I think, for natural beauty is maybe upstate New York, except half of the year it's just unbearable. So in Colombia, in the coffee region, one of the really nice things about it is it's always nice climate. Might be, depending on where you are, it might be a little too hot, but you can, in Armenia, it's not. So it's a great tourist destination too. So if you're looking for a place to live, by all means, come and visit for a few weeks and check out what goes on here. And Armenia is not a sleepy, boring town as some people try to portray it. It's not a Medellin, and people do roll up the carpets by midnight for the most part, except Friday night. Now in Ibagué, I noticed a ton of places that had signs open 24 hours. You don't see that in Armenia. You'll see that in Medellin. You'll see it in Bogota. So Armenia is, it's a little more family oriented, a little more original, traditional, but it's also thoroughly modern. Freebird, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm over my goal for this this first one, so I will definitely do this again. I will go by input. We're going to have some time. This all came up kind of quick, but what I need from you is for you to give me an idea of what the best time would be, best day would be. I'll put together. Try to find what works for you and put it together that way. And the reason I wanted to get this going is to fund some specific things that I just fall short on. But I've got a video card, and I now have my trip expense for my next video, which I plan on going. I think Tuesday or Wednesday at the latest. I'm going to be spending 2 days in another location here in Quindío. Yes, definitely. All gringos should go to Medellin. That's your paradise. That's your playground. Do not come to Armenia. The place absolutely sucks. The weather is lousy. The people are miserable, and it's expensive as hell. So yeah, okay, gotcha. GoFundMe works too. Thank you very much. So, do we have any more questions? We've gone about 45 minutes, I think. My coffee is a little cold, almost done. The thing looks huge close to that camera, doesn't it? It's a big cup. It's about 2 cups once a day, 5 days a week. All right. Okay, 2 good questions. So we're gonna stick around and answer these. First of all, what about panhandling? Yeah, it exists. It exists everywhere. Not so bad as a lot of places. Like I said, I just got back from Ibagué. It was horrible there. I mean, the people will just not want to leave you alone. I had this guy follow me into the Dunkin' Donuts. I was getting a cup of coffee, and he just would not go, would not go. The people that run the place were yelling at him. So you get some annoying stuff. In Armenia, not so much. There's some panhandling. Most of it seems to be Venezuelans. In Armenia, Colombia in general, Armenia specifically, people here are very industrious. As a matter of fact, this came up recently. They're kind of resenting Venezuelans here, not because of their situation, but because what they're seeing is that Venezuelans will come here and tend to do more panhandling or things along those lines. Where here, because there's no real safety net, here, if you're an Armenian and you get put out of work and you need money, they will do anything and everything they can to build up, build their life back up. They're very energetic. I'm not saying Venezuelans are. I'm saying that there is a disconnect between Armenians and Venezuelans that are here because the Armenians are seeing them as more willing to rely on people's handout than getting out and hustling. Well, I have a different point of view. Well, they are out and hustling, and the alternative is they could go take jobs from local Armenians. It's just a bad situation. But yes, there is panhandling here. It's certainly reasonable. I know in my life, I do a lot of things to help people. It's not something I publicize, not something I advertise, but I know that I do what I can where I can. So I am not inclined to stop and give something to every person that tries to accost me for money. As a matter of fact, I tend to just flat ignore them. Now I have there's a guy, he's an old guy, he sits down by the movie star not too far from me. And he lost his legs back in the Civil War that they had here. And if I've got change in my pocket when I go by him, I put it there. It's a particular circumstance. But for the most part, yes, there's panhandlers in Armenia. Is it going to bother you, intrude on your life? Is it unsafe? No. I would suggest you find ways to help if you're so inclined and not worry so much about panhandling. Also, in the country, I would say a good portion of panhandlers are similar to the United States. It has a lot more to do with drug use than it has to do with the country's poverty. So, all right, what do we got? Sorry. Hospitals, physicians. Okay, they're perfectly good here, but it's a small city. If you go to Medellin, the hospitals there's more of them. They are absolutely world-class. They rank very high in the world, above most United States hospitals. Physicians are as good as in the United States. As a matter of fact, they all go to the same schools for the most part. There is nothing remotely backward about medicine in Colombia, in Medellin, in Bogota, or in Armenia. Now, in Armenia, we don't have a whole bunch of hospitals, and the one we have near me, it's not ranked in the top 10 of the world, but it's good. It's good care. And if you had something that was unique, you can always, just like in the United States, every place doesn't have a cancer center like in Rochester, Minnesota. But if you run into that situation, you can go there. So it's the same here. So it's the best medicine in the world is available here, and extremely good medicine is available here in Armenia. And you can't argue the prices. I mean, under $40 a month for, complete health care, including some minor dental and it's like the old HMOs back when we had those. Um, so like preferred care, it's kind of like that, except dirt cheap. You have prescription deductibles that amount to like 40, 50 cents. So yeah, it's available, it's very affordable, and it's very high quality. All right, what do we got? Mass exodus of Venezuelans causing societal problems. It already is. There's, in general, there is a huge sympathy because Venezuela and Colombia have a history going back from the beginning. They're very close. They're very similar people. There's a friendly rivalry, like who invented the arepa. So, I mean, there's a connection there, almost a familial connection. But you can't dump 100 or over 1 million people into a country without having effects. Now, all along the border, Colombia has done what they could, and they put somebody like a drug czar. Well, they've got a migrant czar, and he tried to address. Well, he's still there. He's still trying to do it. Address the problem at the border, where a lot of people get stuck with jobs, by creating these enterprise zones, by assisting businesses to get started. So rather than them coming in and just stealing jobs, helping move businesses in, or helping them start businesses so that they can create their own jobs. And there's been a fair amount of success with that, but it's a big problem, particularly if you go to the Cucuta on the border, which is the main crossing. There's a few, but that's like the main one. You have a lot of problems there with young girls getting caught up in basically by pimps, being put out on the street doing different things. I mean, they're vulnerable, and there's people there trying to take advantage of that. And in some case, bringing them into Medellin or up to Bogota, all money making. There's also a money making racket that a lot of Venezuelans are getting roped into, that is to communicate with gringos on these dating sites and getting them to send, even if it's only 20,000 pesos, $10, or if they really score hundreds of dollars, that's actually a business. It's easy enough to figure them out, but they're there, they exist, you have to be aware of it. And it's, they're finding, like all humans will, a way to survive. It's problematic. In Pereira, last time I was there, the main park, Simon Bolivar, like everywhere, Simon Bolivar, it was packed with Venezuelans panhandling. And it was hard to just sit down and enjoy the park. You couldn't, because you're just constantly being, accosted by people in need. And, I'm glad we don't have it like that in Armenia, but it's definitely a problem. Colombia is not turning a blind eye. They are working, trying to do something about it. So, it's a work in progress. It's an unmanageable task. Have you thought about creating a tour ebook with colorful pics for revenue? If I had a partner, yeah, maybe. I have so much going on that I don't know that I have time for it. I've been working on a book for a couple years, and I have maybe a quarter of it written. So I don't know. There's a lot of things I'd like to do. It's having time for everything and getting too spread out. I'm still on the board. I'm still vice president of the foundation that I started with Audrey in Cuenca. There's still a lot of things, that are going on that I may have mentioned a few years ago. And I can only go so far. It's not a bad idea. On the other hand, so many of those have been done. Maybe not for Armenia, but I'm not a travel guide. Well, I am kind of a travel guide, but I'm not a travel promotion for Armenia. I'm not really trying to sell Armenia. I know the only reason I talk so much about it is I just love it so much here. It's hard not to express that, particularly if you're talking about your life. I mean, I love my life here. So I don't know. Maybe you want to help me do it. Are high-tech products accessible? Thank God, yes. I can't buy them for my personal reasons, but if I had my normal income, or when I have my normal income, when it begins again, and I want to buy, for example, that little Osmos Pocket camera with a built-in stabilizer, I can't wait to someday have that thing, because of the need to be covert. It's perfect. It's designed for me. I can buy that here. I can buy new GoPros. If you watch my older videos when I lived in Ecuador, the things were either not accessible or they were 400 times the cost. Here, you might pay a 10% bump, maybe 15%, but in a lot of cases, it's the same price. There's actually a few enterprising businesses pretty much everywhere. There's one here, maybe more in Armenia, where they make regular trips and suitcase back certain things, and you can actually even request, maybe they'll bring it back in a week or two, and you can buy those products pretty much the same as you could buy it through Amazon. I don't know if it's a 5-finger discount. I'm not sure what the deal is, but there's businesses actually, doing that. So yeah, pretty much anything you can imagine is going to be accessible. And even if I can't get it here in Armenia, I can run to Pareda and get it, which is 15 miles away. 45 minutes by bus though. But yeah, that's not a problem here. Anything you want, you can pretty much get here. And maybe not through Amazon, but you can get it. All right. Now, the delay is because I'm rambling on. He says there's a lot of delay between the chat and the answers. It's because I talk too much. Okay, how's the drug situation, kidnappings like that in Armenia? It's not here. Are there drugs here? I'm sure there is. I'm sure, if you're a college student, you want to get some weed, you know how to do it, where to go. We used to call it pot. Now it's tree or things. I don't know. Obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but I'm not involved in those things. That's long behind me. But I think you're asking more for, is that criminal scene going on here than whether you can get it or not. And if it is, it's really not noticeable. It's not an issue here. People don't talk about it. There's no kidnappings going on here. I will tell you, years ago when the FARC were in this area, and they're very far from here now, but when they were in this area, it was a problem. It was dangerous when I was here before, but I mean, it was very dangerous. Shootings, and I was shot at. I love telling people that, but it's true. It's nothing like that now. It's normal. I mean, it's just a normal thing. If you go to a very small city in the United States where it's peaceful and calm and quiet, and I mean, you got little crime things here and there, but it's like that. It's nothing out of the ordinary. There's no wave of criminality, and certainly no kidnappings. Charles, thank you so much. Leave my name out and call it a mystery. Oh my God, I'm sorry. Okay. Mr. Anonymous, thank you so much. Oh, do the travel buses have restrooms? Yes. Local buses don't. The little busetas, they don't have a bathroom. So if you're if I'm going to Pereira or Manizales and I decide to take a buseta, which is what most of them are, they're making these 45-minute, 2-hour runs at maximum generally. They're not going to have restrooms. On the other hand, they will make stops. And if you really have to go, I came back on a buseta, and it's a 3-hour trip, and I came back on a buseta. Usually you don't have busetas, but I would have had to wait a couple hours. So I took it. And there's an old guy who's one of these guys that, have to go every so often. I used to have to do that. I don't anymore. So I can sympathize. Well, he really had to go. So the driver just pulled over and he went over into the tree. It was maybe an hour later, he had to go again. So the driver just pulled over, and then the driver went out next to him and just peed off into this ravine. They don't worry about that. It's just a human function. They're not embarrassed about it, and understanding and more than willing to stop. Now, if you get a regular bus, like if I'm going to Medellin, for example, and I'm in this big, cushy, aircon, comfy with TV, and which when I went up to Ibagué, that's what I rode in. They also have bathrooms in the back. Now in Ecuador, I'll tell you, they have bathrooms, but a lot of the drivers won't let you in because they don't want to clean them. In Colombia, if they have a bathroom, you can use it. It's just part of the service. It's just normal here. Yeah, and pretty much all of big buses have Wi-Fi or Wi-Fi, they call it here. You'll have a place to plug in your phone to charge it or your laptop, and they'll have Wi-Fi. Now, I will tell you that the Wi-Fi is not the best in the world. It's good for communicating on Facebook or WhatsApp or something like that, but you're not going to sit there and watch a YouTube video off that. Kind of sucks. Also, when you get up into the mountains, like in Ibagué, there's probably on and off about an hour and a half area on and off where there was no signal for my phone. And the buseta going down didn't have Wi-Fi. It was just a no frills deal. On the other hand, it cost 25,000 pesos, so about $8 for the trip each way. I don't talk too much. Well, I'm sorry, you're not supposed to argue with your viewers, but yeah, I do. I know that I just kind of blather on and on. All right, last call for questions. Last call. It's been just a few minutes over an hour. I hope this was helpful and useful to you. Please send me feedback. Send me an email if you want it to be private. And I'd like to know if this is something that I should do on a regular basis. I'd like to make this connection maybe twice a month, but let me know what you think. And I don't see another question popping up. I don't think I missed anything. So self-service. All right, we do have a question. Armenian food similar to Mexican, and talk about self-service costs. Okay, when I got here, I was going to sign up with Movistar for a monthly subscription, deduct from your credit card or your debit card, like you do in the United States. And that's when everything hit, and it's like, well, I can't really afford to get a contract like that. That's when I looked at what do people do here locally. Well, what I found out is pretty much on every street corner, you can recharge your phone, prepay it, recharge it. And what I've discovered is that for 25,000 pesos, less than half of what the monthly fee is, I can get essentially the same amount of data. WhatsApp and Facebook is free for 1 month for 25,000 pesos. So for $8, I can have that. If I don't pay it, my phone just shuts off after a month. But then I can walk 2 doors down and recharge it, and within a minute or two, or usually it's instant, it's right back there. So if you forget, it's not that big a deal. And I've decided that if I were rich, I'd probably still do it the same way for a number of reasons. So costs, very inexpensive. Service is very good. The speed of your data, I can sit and watch a YouTube video on my phone with the service without any problem. Okay, so what else they had? Armenian food, is it like Mexican? No. There are similarities. I mean, rice and beans are, staples everywhere. Armenian food, there's Kandil region. That every region is kind of unique. And so there's some unique things here. Mostly in their sauces, their use of yucca over some starches that others will use. But it's all similar. Big on soups, fruits and vegetables. Meat quality here is quite good, but historically speaking, used to be a problem. And so their habit is to overcook things. Although now you can, if you get a piece of beef or steak, you can actually order the temperature. That didn't used to exist. There was one temperature, shoe leather. But the quality is very good. It's not like Mexican at all, really, although there's plenty of Mexican restaurants here. There's spices available. When I lived here before, people thought black pepper was unbearably hot. There was no spice. Now it's pretty common. One girl I was dating, she loves hot sauce. She's putting hot sauce on everything. That's a new phenomenon. So whatever food you want is available here, but typical Armenian food, honestly, it's a little on the bland side. It's good quality, but kind of bland. Electric cars, place to recharge. No, it's not a thing. Mm-hmm. Uber, there's no Uber in Armenia. They did it for a while. It's grossly unfair to the taxi drivers who have these regulations they have to live up to. It's pretty much the same in the world, but here they're, I don't know, maybe a little more caring about, their taxi drivers. And Medellin Uber's a big thing. Here, it did not go over. I think here, the people didn't like seeing taxi drivers hurt, and so they didn't use the service. So I won't swear to that, but I've been told that. So and it would make sense for how Armenia is, kind of look out for their own. But I don't know what the reason to have an Uber would be. It doesn't make sense here. Taxis do not rip you off. As a matter of fact, there's this thing that carry plenty of change, and when you get out of the taxi, they don't want you to walk away until they give you back every penny of change that you have coming. It's kind of hilarious because I was almost chased down one time because I actually misunderstood, and it was only 200 pesos, and I just got out. I was in a hurry. I just got out and I'm going, and he's hollering, and then somebody on the street is yelling at me, to come back. I thought I forgot something. I go back and it's the 200 pesos. They're very honest. Everything's metered, so there's no question about what the fee should be. They're registered. They've got number placards right on the cab. So, if you need to report somebody for something or if you left something in a taxi. So I don't know. There's really no place for Uber here. You can tell a taxi, I'm going to be going to the airport 9 in the morning, so please pick me up at 8. You could set those things up. So everything you could want is here with the taxis. And So what else do you need? Ticketing system. There's no tickets on the Tinto buses. It's cash. You go. There's no cards. Like in Cuenca, they went to the transport cards. You have to recharge them. Here, you just give the guy the money. And I'm not telling you to do this, but I've seen drivers with somebody that obviously was hurting based on their clothes or whatever, and give them a free ride. I mean, it's there's flexibility to it, but you just go in, you give them the 1,800 pesos, 2,000 on Sunday. Sundays, the taxi and the buses have this little premium. Doesn't amount to a lot, but they have a premium charge. Maybe because Sunday is a big thing here, and so maybe they have to pay the drivers more. I'm guessing it's that. Yeah, Uber's unfair in the United States too. Yeah, I agree. The standards, the requirements are not the same. It's kind of like Airbnb. I mean, I use Airbnb, but they don't have standard requirements that hotels do. So you've got a small mom and pop hotel struggling, and an Airbnb is taking their client and doesn't have to have the same overhead. It is unfair. It's I love competition, but it's kind of unfair competition. Yeah, you can build a relationship with drivers and do it that way, and that's very comforting, particularly if you have language problems or you're relatively new. As time goes on, there's no need. I mean, if I need to catch a taxi, there's going to be one within a minute. If he's not there in front, taxis are everywhere. There are more taxis here than maybe anywhere I've seen. It's crazy how many you see in the videos. It's just constant taxis, and it's not just off the main drag. It's on the side roads too. There's just taxis everywhere. But they also have apps that you can easy taxi and things like that, where you can summon a taxi to where you are. Sunday night. Good thought. Why do I like Armenia better than Medellin? I actually did a video on that, Armenia versus Medellin. I don't like big cities, so that's out. I don't like pollution. Medellin is very polluted, so that's out. Medellin is expensive. Prices have been driven up by tourists. There's about 10,000 gringos living in Medellin, and they get here, they don't understand what pricing is, so they overpay, they waste a lot of money, drives prices up because it's a competitive capitalist society, and if that's what the market bear, they'll charge it. It's caused a certain amount of resentment because local people can no longer live in places they used to because the prices get driven up. People are coming here with money outside of the economy, not living in the economy, and feeling rich, and so they're throwing all this money around, inflates the prices. But if you're in the economy and you're on a regular paycheck, it's putting those things out of reach. It's also created a situation where because of that, there's a general lack of respect and a view that if you're a gringo, you're really kind of a target because you don't care about your money. You're going to throw it around. You'll waste it. I might as well get it. So girls, if you're looking for a girlfriend, so many of them are motivated by that. If you're looking for an apartment, if you're looking for any kind of service, they're looking at you saying, oh, I just hit the jackpot. Where in Armenia, it's not there at all. It's not like that. It's just normal. I mean, because you don't have gringos blowing in and wasting a lot of money. I mean, the ones that I've been meeting aren't coming in here. They're being very reasonable. They're just coming in and paying for what they need. They're not trying to act like they're nouveau riche. So those are some of the differences. Climates are similar. There's things about Medellin that are spectacular. I mean, it's such a modern city. There's so many awesome things about it. But for a lifestyle, it's just not for me. Okay, what do we got here? Won't that eventually happen in Armenia? It may. I hope not. We're so far from it now, it probably wouldn't happen in my lifetime. I don't know that there's going to be droves of gringos coming in here, and having some come in that are understanding. You know, I've been giving this a lot of thought. Is it a mistake for me to talk about Armenia in these videos? Am I doing a disservice to Armenia? Am I doing a disservice to myself? And it's a possibility. I mean, I struggle with it. And I kept quiet about a lot of positive things in Manizales because of that. Manizales is a type of place that should be on everybody's radar. And I didn't want to blow it up. And I also knew that I wasn't going to be, around there. On the other hand, I think these videos also give information or even educate on how to be if you are here. And so I think the people that are finding out through my videos, the ones that I'm meeting are very respectful to people here. I'm meeting a couple people a month that watch my videos and they're visiting. And I never thought about Armenia. It was never on my radar, but we're coming through and I made a side trip. And I'm running into a lot of that. But these people that I'm running into are not your typical, they're not whoremongers. They're not, coming in here trying to be king of the hill and rich off their $2,000 retirement. They're not like that. They're not those kind of people. They're not here going, oh, these poor little people. They're here with a sincere curiosity. They just want to live a nice life, and they're very respectful to people. They're even learning things like the tipping, and they're paying attention to those things. So ultimately, Armenia may get discovered, but maybe these videos are doing it in such a way that maybe we won't run into that. I don't know. It could be Pollyanna thinking. I don't know. I hope it doesn't get ruined. It's just stunning as it is. And as much as I love Armenia, I have to remind people this. I am not that way about Colombia in general. There's a lot of places in Colombia I do not like. I don't like Pasto. I'm not a fan of Popayán. I don't like Cali. I don't like Bogota. There's a lot to be said about Medellin. If you like big cities, then it's a good place. I won't take it away. Cartagena, it's too hot. Way too much crime. Way too much touristy stuff going on. So there's a lot of places that I don't care for in Colombia. But Armenia is in this region, in Manizales. It's something special. There's something special here. My lung issues, yeah, it's a non-issue. I don't have any problem at all with it. I never experienced the pneumonia that scarred my lungs was never a problem for me once I got over that many years ago, until the altitude caught up with me. And after a couple of years, I was filling with fluid. It was that scarring coming back to haunt me. And I got that altitude, that long-term illness, where basically I had pneumonia, I think 3 times in 1 year there. And I'd gone had it one time in my life, and that was 20 some years before. So yeah, the altitude definitely had an effect. Well, here I'm at 5,200, 5,500 feet. That's not a problem. Anything below 8,000 is generally not problematic with people that have the altitude issues. So Manizales, it was 7,200 feet. I had no problems there. In Girón in Ecuador, I had no problems except for Wi-Fi. But I mean, I had no health problems. So my lungs are good, and I'm rasping a little, but that's because I'm talking a lot. I talked a lot when I was in Ibagué, and also in the morning I tend to, have a little of that. But no, I'm doing good. Okay, I think that's it. I'm going to wrap it up. An hour and 20 minutes. That seems like a pretty good time. When I do Skype calls, kind of works out to that. Thank you guys so much. I'll have to go back and look. I know that there were a number of contributors. You don't know how much I appreciate it, and it's definitely giving me the I will do this again. It shows me that it's wanted, it's appreciated, and that makes me I want to do it. So send me your comments. I like the one about the Monday evening. I think that may be a very good, very good idea. But send me that, and we'll set it up for that. And that's it. I'll get that video out. The editing, it's already a nightmare, but I'm trying to get it out by Tuesday. We're Ibagué. So I'll see you later, and thank you.